Hey guys, happy Saturday to everyone. I'm back with little Monroe. And if I sound funny, it's because I have a mask on. And the reason I have a mask on is because I'm going to be powdering her. Because today in this video, I want to talk about the truth about what it takes to really care for a silicone doll. I know these types of videos have been done for a long time by many people, but I'm going to give you the hard, honest truth about caring for a silicone doll. I get these questions all the time, and honestly, I will tell you, it's not a cut and dry answer. It's not the same answer for every collector, and that's why I want to make this video, because I've seen informational videos out there that are super helpful, but what I haven't seen is the gray area depending on who the artist is, what type of silicone the doll's made from, and really just being very, very honest. It's great and informative. I think that for those collectors out there that are newly dabbling in silicone and potentially deciding to bring home a silicone baby for the first time, that may have seen other videos about powdering, about how you handle the doll, all those things. I'm going to give the breakdown of my thoughts on what I think new to silicone collectors need to know. I wish I had known early on, but I came into silicone dolls at a time where they were very new. I discovered them when they were coming out. So I watched the medium grow. I watched the problems that arose from all of the silicone dolls that were put out at first. And I think that it is really very important to make sure you understand the difference between caring for a silicone doll versus any other medium, because it does require some maintenance. It also requires you to be a little bit more careful when handling, and I get a lot of questions why the people always ask me, why are you putting hand mitts on her? I put hand mitts on her when I change her. I started doing that a really long time ago because it was suggested by, I'm trying to remember which artist. It wasn't Claire, but it was another artist that said that the hands of a silicone doll tend to wear off paint very quickly, or like the matting and then the paint, because things rub across them. Not to mention, when you're trying to put long sleeve or tight sleeves or any sleeve over an open hand, that can lend to being caught and the finger being torn or pulled back or potentially damaged in some way. And I know that there are other methods out there that use like putting plastic over their hands. I'm not a fan of the plastic. I've seen people damage them that way. And when I asked Claire a while back, I had asked, what do you recommend? Better to be safe than sorry and use a hand mitt. But I do know that other artists have suggested and shown in their videos putting plastic over their hands when they dress them. The problem is that depending on how well the doll was made and also how well the matting is, so is it smooth or is it tacky? Because there's a lot of dolls out there that are a tacky kind of silicone because they're either not brand new or they don't have a lot of matting on them, so the silicone can become very tacky. And when you put plastic baggies over tacky silicone, it sticks to it and rubs it. Worse than putting fabric on it, and it can literally rub whatever's left of paint and create peeling. So anything that causes friction, I'm just not a fan of. So I tend to err on the side of caution. It has worked well for me to use mitts. As long as they're not too tight, trying to get them on her hands, and they slide right through all clothing. So I find that this is one of the best tricks when you're dressing a silicone doll, that some collectors think, oh, that doesn't look realistic. I don't care what looks realistic in my videos. I want to make sure I'm protecting my doll. I'm not making videos for realism of like, she looks like a living baby, great, but when I'm changing her and putting her in clothes and outfits, I'm going to protect her silicone because she's not a real baby. And in order to keep the doll intact and keep protection, of things happening to the doll, why not use the tips that a lot of us collectors have been doing for a long, long time, and it's proven to work really well. This baby has seen many, many changes. She's not got any paint issues. She's got no issues with her matting. And I've always done this, unless it's like a tank top type of, sleeveless outfit or something. I always put mitts on this baby's hands, and it's preserved them. And over the years that I've had her, she's been changed and handled a lot. Another tip that I think is really important to take into consideration when you're dressing your dolls, a silicone doll that is trying not to pull clothing over the head on a regular basis. Why does that matter? Okay, it matters because rooted hair on a silicone doll is not sealed in any way. It's in the head so far. It's a solid head of silicone, so there's no way to really seal in and keep the hair in. Yes, if it's rooted deep enough, which thank goodness Claire roots very deep. She's one of the best rooters for that the hair there's no hair loss. Even if you wash the hair doesn't come out. Like there's a technique that she's used over the years that is really wonderful because her dolls are known for not losing hair. Other artists, I think, have started to do the same thing because the doll will last longer. And when you pull clothing over their heads, especially if it's a tight, opening, neck opening, it can pull the hair right out. And some dolls are not rooted very deep, and that can happen. You'd be surprised at how easily it could happen. So I try, and it's hard sometimes, I try to always pull the clothing on from the bottom up on Monroe. On any doll, it's just a habit I've gotten into. And even on reborns that have sealed hair, I don't take the chance. It's also, it'll pull on her ears. Like, it's pulling anything tight over their heads, I'm just not a fan of. I just think that we want to keep less wear on our dolls. Silicone is different. It's a different kind of medium. It's durable, yes, but not knowing if the paint is durable or the matting is durable. And a lot of dolls that are made now, like kits are being painted by so many artists, and you don't know if their technique of painting and how well their matting holds up. Caution is always the best way. I always err on the side of caution, even though I know Claire Taylor is like hands down had the least amount of problems with paint peeling or matting being lost over time with their dolls. Her dolls stand the test of time. But even though I know that, I'm still going to take the measures to protect her silicone because I don't want to take a chance. I want her to stay in as perfect condition as I can possibly keep her for as long as I can. And my techniques have worked, which is why I'm sharing it. People ask me all the time, so that's why I'm sharing. So those are some basic tips. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my mask back on and I'm going to start powdering here. Technically, this baby does not need to be powdered. I'm going to start by saying that. However, even though this particular baby does not need to be powdered, most silicone dolls need to be powdered every so often, and it really depends. Not every doll is the same. It depends on the type of silicone. It depends on the, how intact is the matting, how good is the painting, where, it's going to vary. It's a big gray area to the type of silicone. Some silicone is constantly tacky and it feels sticky almost, and that's when you need to put some powder on them because that will put a protective layer. And powder will also help protect when you're putting clothes on them and taking them off, having that extra layer, especially when you have a tacky type of doll or a doll that may not have, all their matting intact or that may have, a paint issue. Putting a light layer of powder on protects your doll from more wear and tear. And so with Claire's dolls, her newer dolls, she doesn't recommend actually powdering them. It doesn't hurt them. And so I do powder her every once in a blue moon, usually for video purposes, because she doesn't need it. She doesn't have a bunch of shiny spots. Her painting, matting, everything is just perfect. And I'm grateful for that. But that's just not the case with the average silicone doll. I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, well, every doll can withstand this, that, and the other thing, and it'll end up with perfect paint and perfect matting and never have any issues. It's more common that dolls, after a certain age of being handled, and it depends on how much they're handled, that they start to lose their matting. They start to lose paint in places, some more than others. So it really depends. And depending on where you buy the doll from, what paints the artist used, how good were they at matting the doll, because matting is like an art form all in itself. I've talked to artists, it is the part of the process of making a doll that they hate the most, because it can ruin the doll. And some artists are just better at it than others. It's a skill. It's a skill, and it may be, you know, a lot of things that weigh into that. But anyways, I'm going to start powdering her. Let me put my mask back on. Why do I wear a mask? The silicone powder is very fine, and it goes into the air. So I want to protect my lungs. And my method of powdering is always to dab, never drag across, because even though it's powder and it's, you know, made with silicone and it's meant for this, it's granules. Even if they're tiny granules, they're still granules. So anything that you're causing friction, don't do it. I'm just not a fan. I've seen people put powder in their hands, rub their hands together, and then rub it all over the doll. Worst thing you can do. That is like the worst friction you can cause on the doll. Anything that you rub, you shouldn't be rubbing your silicone doll ever. Like, they're not babies that need to be massaged. And a little powder goes a long way. Less is more. You shouldn't see a thick layer of powdering. The doll shouldn't turn white. And I make sure I use I've had this brush for forever. Got it at TJ Maxx. It's a great kabuki brush. And this isn't powder. This is the color of it prior to putting powder on it. So it's not like full of powder. It's tinted that way. That's the way that the bristles are made. But a nice kabuki brush that doesn't lose bristles, because I know that annoys people when they powder their dolls and then suddenly they've got little bristles all over the baby. That does happen with cheaper, even nice kabuki brushes. I've noticed that it can definitely happen. And I just do a light coating. I'm not even going to do in her diaper area because it doesn't need to be done. And this is also the time when I actually look her over and inspect her. You know, I'm looking closely at her. And when you put powder on a doll, it will accentuate weird spots. If you have a doll that has like excess matting in a spot, it almost makes it look like it's got dry skin when you add a layer of powder over it. So when you powder a silicone doll, it brings out its flaws. That's something most people won't tell you. Powdering highlights any rough spots in the silicone. Like I said, excess matting, which does happen, it'll show up more. And then you kind of go, oh, that just made my doll look weird. And it can. But it'll also help you find where there might be an issue, because the powder just, it enhances and magnifies pretty much everything on the doll. I've inspected her time and time again every time. I usually do it right when I've powdered her. And I inspect her also other times when I'm dressing her. I check like behind her ears because those can catch on things. I check in between her fingers, in between her toes, in her armpits, behind her knees. Those are the places that you're going to find are the common spots where even her little belly button, you know, her stump, because it's, you know, it sticks up. Even though it's soft, it's still a place that can catch on things. So I'm always looking her over. The more you inspect your silicone doll on a regular basis, the more likely you're going to catch a small tear or paint peel that you can catch early enough and be aware of it so you can protect it. And that's going to be key to having and enjoying a silicone doll without stressing about it all the time because you're worried something's going to happen to it. We've all been there. Most collectors that are new to silicone are paranoid they're going to damage the doll. If you handle the doll with care and you're cautious, you don't have to be overly cautious. I mean, you guys see me handle her as I'm clothing her and stuff like that, and I'm not afraid to touch her. The point is you want to be able to enjoy your doll, right? So if you err on the side of caution and you just are generally gentle when you handle them, overall, they will last. Let me show you what I'm putting on her, sorry. For those horsey lovers out there, this is an oldie but goodie. This is a Jules sleeper, 0 to 3 month size, and it's got horses all over it. I love this. It was a gift once upon a time, and I still love it. But yeah, so, you know, we all have to apply some common sense when we understand that silicone, even though it is a very durable medium, it's durable to an extent, you know. I try to explain to people, you know, when you talk about, you know, durability of silicone and how it should be handled and how long will it last. I don't know if we really know how long silicone, even if it's medical grade, which is what Claire uses, I still don't know how long the doll would last over time, depending on how much I'm handling her. You know, it really just, we don't know. So that's why I'm always very careful. Always careful. And when you're putting your doll's hands through sleeves, pushing the arm through at the elbow instead of pulling the hand, also better for the doll, less wear and tear. Another tip. And I always make sure when I've got a hold of the hand that I've got the whole hand in. And you see, I'm pushing from within. I'm not pulling from here. I'm pushing her elbow through. And with the mitt on, it helps slide it right through. So there's no catching any fingers. They're protected. They're not getting, you know, one pulled backwards. That's like my worst fear, is ripping off a finger. Not that, I mean, it would take a lot to rip off a finger, but still. It's a fear. It's a fear that I've had over the years. And I know that some collectors have had it happen. So that's truly how I feel about it. I think that, you know, when cared for properly, because I've seen brand new dolls get ruined by Claire Taylor. I've seen it happen. And I don't know what the person did to damage the doll like they did. It takes a lot. And I think it was either handled by, you know, kids. And these dolls are not meant for children. These are not meant for children. If you want a cheap doll, invest in a cheap doll for your kid, that's fine. But they're not meant and made for children. So kids don't know how to handle with care unless they become a certain age, you know, and are responsible enough. But most kids of a certain age are just not going to understand what they're doing is damaging the doll. So I've seen some of the best dolls from the best, most amazing artists that, you know, the paint is durable, you know, the silicone is durable, and I've seen them get damaged. And I'll tell you what, it is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because they're expensive. These dolls are not cheap. So you want to do everything that you can. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Claire Taylor silicone. It's not about that. It's about the fact that all silicone dolls are expensive. It doesn't matter what you spent for yours. They're not cheap. Even the cheapest of silicone dolls are not cheap. So for me, I think it's important for people to understand that they're an investment. You want to protect your investment. You want to be able to enjoy the doll. And I thoroughly enjoy her. There's nothing that holds me back from enjoying her. Even by having to handle her with care, it doesn't make me not enjoy her. I still am able to enjoy her, keep her protected, and she lasts longer, so I can enjoy her longer, right? I mean, that's really what we're looking for. But there's her little sleeper. I think that the takeaway from this, if you've stuck with me this long, is that The care of a silicone really depends. How much care is needed is depending on the type of silicone and how durable, how well painted, how well matted, you know, did it get purchased on the secondary market and you don't know the history of the doll. That's another thing to keep in mind, because people that have bathed their dolls, and I don't care if you just rinse the doll off, if there's a paint issue or a matting issue, you're allowing water to get in between those layers. And I know people love to do bathing videos because it's great role play, and I get that. But I have to say this because I like to forewarn people. I'm giving you honesty. It is not good to put any silicone doll in water and submerge them in water. When you see artists doing it, it's because they've pulled it from the mold and they're rinsing the mold and washing the doll to make a blank, clean surface in which to paint. Every artist I've ever done business with, talked to about this, never recommends it. But they know people are going to do it. So they try to give the best, advice if you're going to bathe your doll. It is not recommended by any top artist, by any artist that's been doing this for any length of time. That is truly one of the biggest issues when you buy a doll in the secondary market. You need to ask, was the doll ever bathed? Does the doll have any painting issues, matting issues? And you be pushy about it if you have to be, because getting a doll that has paint issues, it's not an easy fix, and most artists won't touch it. It's too much work. So knowing the doll's history is also going to tell you a lot. If you're getting a doll directly from an artist, there's going to be a warranty of some sort. Most artists will work on their dolls, especially if you get a doll and it has an issue right away. They're going to take it back and they're going to fix it for you. But if you're buying on the secondary market, artists usually don't touch the doll because they don't know what it's been through. And they don't have time. They're creating new dolls all the time. So that's something to keep in mind. So there's a lot of factors. So can a silicone doll be easy to care for? Absolutely. But not all of them are. And some can be very scary and traumatic for people because they've had issues with them. And that taints the feeling of the experiencing of a new silicone doll. So always ask lots of questions. You want to know the history of a doll. If you're buying on the secondary market, it's very important to know the doll, how it was handled and cared for. And if someone doesn't know, then be a little leery, proceed with caution. But depending on the type of silicone, and the softer the silicone, the more easy it is to damage. Meaning like the super soft marshmallow, what everybody calls a marshmallow. I don't even know what Ecoflex it is. I just know that you could take it and literally stretch it out, and it's just too soft, and you lay them on something, it indents them. You can easily tear it, So there's a happy medium, I think, of super soft, too soft, and, too hard. There's a happy medium somewhere in the middle. I don't even know what Monroe is Ecoflex-wise, because Claire does not do Ecoflex. So there's no Ecoflex number on them for her edition dolls. It's a special blend. She's very soft, but she maintains her form. She doesn't bend in a weird way. She doesn't have limp noodle legs and arms. They stay where they're supposed to. Even if I pick her up, her arms will still stay in a natural position and not bend backwards like the super, super soft silicone does. But she's very soft. Like, she's super soft. She's plenty soft, but it's realistically soft, Real babies don't have noodles for legs and arms. So just something to keep in mind. The softer the silicone, I think the more damage happens to them, easier. But yeah, hopefully that's been helpful information for you guys. I've just gotten such an influx of, I think, collectors that want to dive in and get a silicone doll, and they just don't know enough about them. And we talk about things in our videos, but we talk about it in ways that most people may not understand. We use terms that most people may not understand that are new to it. So I'm always happy if you have questions. Feel free to post a comment with a question. I'm happy to answer it for you, but I just want people to be well informed. I want collectors to be well informed if they're gonna buy their first silicone doll, or maybe you just got your silicone doll and you're just new to it all. It's better to ask questions than to make an assumption and then damage the doll later on, because nobody sets out to damage their doll. it's heartbreaking when it happens. So I'm always happy to help. If people have questions, put them in the comments. Now I've gone past 25 minutes. Oh, this is a long one. So if you're still with me, guys, thank you so much for sticking around. And I hope you guys have a great start to your weekend. I am just enjoying some time, some downtime, because my other half is traveling with hockey. So now I'm going to probably catch up on some videos. But anyways, guys, enjoy your weekend. And Monroe and I will see you all very, very soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.